All right, let's just jump right into it. This is maybe one of the biggest, most stressful questions in all of personal finance. You've got a little extra cash? What do you do with it? Do you beef up your savings for when life goes sideways, or do you go to war with that debt? It can really feel like a tug-of-war. And today, we're going to figure out which side you should be pulling for.
So let's make this real for a second. Just think about it. Your car's transmission dies, you get a surprise medical bill, something happens, and you suddenly need $400 right now. Could you cover that with cash on hand without having to sell something or put it on a credit card?
And here's why that question is so important. That number right there. According to the Federal Reserve, a staggering 39% of Americans cannot cover that $400 expense. That means almost 4 out of every 10 people are just one small emergency away from a huge financial problem. It really shows you just how fragile things are for so many of us.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We are going to look at both sides of this. First, we'll explore the all-out attack on debt. Then we'll flip it and look at why building that safety net first might actually be the smarter move. After that, we'll find that sweet spot in the middle, and this is the best part. I'll show you how to put the whole thing on autopilot. So first up, let's talk about the aggressive approach. This is what some people call the Gazelle Intense mindset. You know, like a gazelle running from a cheetah? It's all about channeling every ounce of your energy into wiping out your debt. Because in this view, debt is the single biggest risk to your financial life.
And this is where the psychology behind it gets really fascinating. The advice is to start with a tiny, almost uncomfortable emergency fund, just $1,000. And like this Reddit user says, it's not supposed to feel like enough. That's the whole point. Having that small of a buffer is supposed to scare you a little, to light a fire under you, to attack that debt with an intensity you've never had before.
The most popular way to do this is with a debt snowball. It's actually pretty simple. You list all your debts, not by interest rate, but from the smallest balance to the largest. You pay the minimums on everything, except for that smallest one. You throw every extra dollar you have at it until it's gone. And that's the magic. You get a quick win. It feels amazing. And that feeling of progress gives you the motivation to keep going. Then you take all the money you were paying on that first debt and you roll it onto the next one. You're building this huge psychological momentum. But what about the other side of the coin? This argument says that before you can even think about attacking debt, you need a solid foundation under your feet. You need a safety net. Why? Because without one, the slightest breeze, the smallest emergency can knock your entire financial house down. And this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at the difference. Without savings, an emergency forces you to take on more debt, probably high-interest credit card debt. You end up in this vicious cycle. You might miss bills, you might even have to raid your retirement accounts, and you're just living with this constant stress. But with a safety net, you have stability, you have resilience, and maybe most important, you have the peace of mind to stick with your plan for the long haul. And if you need one key takeaway, this is it. An emergency fund protects your future self. Research from BlackRock's Emergency Savings Initiative actually found that people who have emergency savings are half as likely to take a loan or withdraw from their retirement accounts. That safety net is like a firewall, protecting your long-term wealth from short-term problems. Okay, so we've got two really powerful arguments, but they seem to point in completely opposite directions, right? One says, attack the debt with everything you have. The other says, build your savings first. Well, the real answer, as it usually is somewhere in the middle. It's not all or nothing. It's about finding the balance that actually works for you. I absolutely love this quote, and it's from that same Reddit community we saw before. It's such a great reminder that personal finances, well, it's personal. A rigid rule from some expert might not fit your life, your income, your family, or just your own comfort level with risk. You really have to trust yourself to know what's best.
So this leads us to what is probably the most practical solution for most people. It's a balanced, kind of hybrid strategy. So step 1, build a starter emergency fund. Not that tiny, scary $1,000 one, but maybe enough to cover one full month of your must-pay expenses. Get that cushion in place. Then, once you have that bit of security, you turn all your financial firepower toward that high-interest debt, knowing you can handle one of life's curveballs if it comes your way.
Now look, having a plan is awesome, but executing that plan is everything. And the absolute best way to make sure you stick with it is to make it totally effortless. So let's talk about putting this whole thing on autopilot. This is where technology becomes your absolute best friend. Auto transfer rules are basically just simple instructions you set up with your bank to move money for you. So instead of having to rely on willpower every single payday to save money or make an extra debt payment, you build a system that just does the hard work for you, automatically.
And the cool thing is, you have so much flexibility here. You could set up a rule that sends, say, 10% of every paycheck into that starter emergency fund. Once it's full, you just log in and change the destination of that 10% to your debt. You can even set rules to, like, keep a certain balance in your checking account and automatically sweep anything extra over to savings. It's all about designing a system that works for your brain. And this, right here, this is the beautiful end game. Remember that big debt snowball payment you were making? The one that was knocking out your debts one by one? Well, once the debt is finally gone, you don't stop making that payment. You just change its destination. That entire snowball that was going to debt now goes straight into your savings and investments. You've already built the muscle, now you just reap the reward.
So here it is, the big takeaway. This was never really about picking a side in some financial debate. It's about taking control. So the real question for you is this: what is one small step you can automate right now, today, to change your financial future? It could be $10 a week into a savings account. That one simple move put on autopilot could be the first step toward a completely different life.